Hi, so it's been a bit of a gap, but I wanted to carry on with talking to you about parts. So the last video we kind of did a part solicitation using the form that I uploaded, where we can examine what is the part of us that is preventing us from achieving our goal or desired state. So if you haven't filled that in, please download the form and have a go at that. There are lots of ways we can find those parts. We can just follow the feeling in the body and invite the part that's holding that feeling, that thought, that memory, just to come out. But this video I want to introduce how we can use EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques, to help us with those parts and help us to process what is stuck and how that part has become stuck. So just as an introduction to EFT, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. It is the name given to a form of Meridian Tapping, Acu-tapping or acupressure tapping, or percussive acupressure. That's kind of got lots of names now. Most commonly referred to as tapping. By Gary Craig. Gary Craig was an NLP master and trainer who studied with Roger Callahan and learnt his technique, TFT. And TFT, thought field therapy, was quite complex in that although it was Roger Callahan who put together the idea of kind of addressing emotional states, issues or problems, and tapping while we did that, and the effect that had, he devised a series of algorithms, specific tapping sequences per issue or per stuck emotion or per stuck problem. And so you had to learn those particular algorithms. And basically Gary Craig learnt the techniques and learnt the algorithms and then tried to see if it could be simplified. And what he found was that actually the body intelligence and our intelligent energy system is able to actually shift energy, move energy, resolve our problems and process our problems and process energy, should I say, not the problem, by tapping in on all the points, the main 12 meridian line points, in any sequence, not as some TFT person tried to explain to a group of people that we were speaking at, in an attempt to guess what that sequence, that algorithm might be randomly, which he's quite right would be nigh on impossible. He was incorrect. The actual reason we can tap kind of on any points in any given order is because what Gary Craig discovered was that the algorithm wasn't relevant. It didn't matter. The body can respond to tapping on the sequence of meridian points. What I would like to add is that when we tap on those points, we are doing a number of things. So this is usually referred to as energy psychology. We are actually energetically shifting and moving energy. But it's true also that those that try to find another explanation, it's also true that we do anchor feelings in the body. So we do create somatic markers, and when we're touching, we begin associations. We are doing something that can help us be very present, especially if you're breathing and doing other things while you're tapping. So tapping works in a number of ways. Really the best and most immediate way, and the way that it probably saved my life, is using it in the moment when you have something come up that you can't handle. Usually when we're triggered, so we have a stimuli and then a trigger, it triggers a part of us to respond. And that part of us is the part that's been holding the strategies and holding all the information that is a truth to that part from a past event. And it brings forth a strategy. So it's why when we're upset we start to act childish again, and we act like this. Like me, it was like the stuck teenager. It means that I'm not really dealing with it in a whole brain state, in a holistic way, as the me that is fully present, aware, adult, grown up, much more aware now. And there's a reason for that. That part is trying to keep me safe. But when that part comes forth and kind of takes over, sometimes it's referred to as an amygdala hijack, where we are emotionally taken over. That's true. That is where that information is being held. And at that point it is stuck in time and space. So that event that happened to us is still active. When we're triggered, we go back into the ways we dealt with that before, or back into the responses, the flight, fight, freeze responses that we were triggered into and adopted at that time. So that part is holding information that is stuck in time and space. If it's a frozen part, it's an incomplete event. It didn't finish. It never concluded. So I'm left in survival mode around that issue. So what we do when we update our parts and we reintegrate them is we actually change the meaning that that event had. We change the belief that got stuck and we update the meaning, and we actually are able to then get a newer, broader perspective. And those are the kind of aha moments that we hear people talk about, where we can know something in the conscious mind, but that doesn't matter that I know consciously here and now why I should let that go, or why he didn't really mean what he said, or why they didn't, something happened in a specific way. The part of me that was affected by that at that time is still holding that truth. So when we tap, we are doing something from NLP terms called a collapse anchor. So we are being in one state and then reminding the body that we're safe. If we tap in the moment, we are literally processing the energy. So if I feel angry now because this part is responding, as I tap on that, I am releasing the energy that is building up inside of me. And as I do that, I can then begin to integrate that part of me with the rest of me now, and basically begin to resolve that issue. I can get new learnings, new information, and help that part to understand that that is not happening now. Okay? I'm here now. It's not happening now. The problem that we can face with tapping on something that is not happening now is we can elicit those exact same feelings and thoughts, which is why EFT is a bit like reactivating that event and bringing forth that part of me and actually getting them to re-experience it, which is why in EFT we have techniques where we have to creep up on the problem, where we have to have the tearless trauma, where we have to have ways in which we work with a memory or work with a part of us that is holding that memory, thought, belief, experience, and help them not go back into it too much. So we have to kind of creep around and take the edge off what we feel now. So it's a bit like letting it trickle in and processing a bit, trickling in, processing it. So you can see how if it's already in and I'm already upset and I'm angry, tapping, or I'm already fearful, tapping now can help. But the purpose of that is to bring me back to the present moment and allow myself to process what was stuck. So if I deliberately work on something from the past, it's very likely that I'm going to reconnect with it. So I want to kind of deal with this kind of pseudoscience thing. This to me is a moot point. This is a dumb argument, okay? The concept of energy is not a woo-woo concept, okay? Quite literally, if you just look at yourself and look at me talking to you now, okay? If we did not have energy, we wouldn't be alive. We have a living energy force. Okay, it's measurable in all kinds of ECGs and different scanners and all kinds of stuff at the hospital. And yet there still seems to be this idea that if we try to talk about it, if we try to evidence that working with it can have an influence on us, it's kind of posted as pseudoscience. So let's just get over that now, okay? The body, mind, spirit, energetic system is a working system. It works as one, okay? And there are various triggers. You can be triggered physically into an emotional and mental state. You can have a memory and be triggered into a physical response, okay? What it comes down to is it's all about survival. And as long as we are safe, we can grow, we can become stronger, wiser, self-actualize, fulfill our purpose, and do what we're here to do. Okay, that is difficult if we are under threat. Now, I talk about it in my book, the reasons why we feel we're under threat. Okay, another moot point, it's nature and nurture. Okay, my nature is that I can respond to threat. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, I can respond to threat. I can use strategies that do the best for me to keep me alive, and that's what these parts are doing. But where I learned what is safe and not safe is in my upbringing. It's in my genetic inheritance. It's in my energetic inheritance from my lineage. Okay, so we are created from energy. We hold information, and that information informs us what is safe and what is not safe, and allows us to adapt to threats to survival. So the point of processing that information is to allow us to stop triggering the body into survival, to stop triggering our mind into survival, to update what our body, mind, and energy field is reading as a threat to survival. Okay, we need to be able to respond to a real threat to survival, but what we don't want is a part of us that was misinformed or misread a situation, or had a real experience but survived but still feels stuck, still living in that moment and still feeling that they are responding to a threat to survival. And we generalize those things. So let's say somebody laughed at me at school, then I now feel when I stand up in front of a group of people that I can't speak because they're going to laugh at me. Laughing from our social group is being pushed out of the social group, which is a threat to survival. So now my fear of standing up in front of people has a real life survival response to a trigger that is being held from where I learned something in the past. Okay, so meridian tapping, Acu-tapping, or EFT uses the meridian system, and it uses the same meridian lines as Chinese medicine and acupuncture, except what we are doing is, instead of dealing with things in a similar way as the Chinese medicine, which is balancing using the 5 elements, we're doing a kind of rebalance in a bit like the electrical circuitry of our system. Meridian system is part of the whole system, so it is connected to the chakras, it's connected to our heart field, it's connected to we are a massive vibrating harmonic vibrations that can become discordant, and this is really what we're doing, is we're kind of retuning and realigning those so that we are working better as a system. It's like tuning a car. It's like running programs on your computer that clear out those background problems that are slowing it down. Okay, this is really a technique that you can use as a maintenance program, a bit like running a kind of scanner and saying, what are the programs at running at the back that are misinforming my other programs, or misinforming the way that I run on a day-to-day basis. Let me work with those and let me realign them. So for sense of ease, we start from the top and tap down. The 12 main meridian lines, we pretty much tap at the ends or near the ends. For example, we can't really tap at the end of the bladder point because it goes right into here, so we tend to tap up here. So either here or here. Okay, so we run down the meridian points, and then I'll show you those first, and then I will explain to you about the setup and what is commonly referred to as secondary gain. Okay, so the Baihui point is the crown point, Baihui meaning 100 meeting point, and this is really a very powerful point that really allows for our energy to flow. So we kind of have a field also that flows as a torus, and so this is a really valuable point. But this is a point, and it's also on the central and governing line that they meet inside here. There you can put your tongue at the top of your the roof of your mouth and join your central and governing lines. Okay, so this is the top point. We then come down to the inner eyebrow point, and I'll just put up a poster later about the points rather than go from now. The outer eyebrow point, and it's quite good for us to cross over, so we're not stuck in this homilateral state. We cross laterally tap is quite good for us to do. Okay, under the eye in line with the pupil, under the nose, in the cleft of the chin, and in the collarbone, which, as your collarbone, mine's there, and if you feel from the center cleft, there's my dimple bit from the cleft, if you feel out along it about, I don't know, about a third, half the way along, there's a soft bit underneath, and we can tap there. This is kidney 27. We then have points under the arm, which is kind of, it would be in line with the bra strap or the nipple if your nipple is in a reasonably level place. And then underneath in the ribs, if I just lift up, you can see that. And then we've got 6 main meridians running down our arms, 3 at the top and 3 on the underside. So one way we can do is tap across the top of the wrist and the bottom of the wrist. The reason tapping across the bottom of the wrist is very calming is that the pericardium, the heart and the lung meridians run through the wrist. But we can tap from the top nail on the top of each of the fingernails. Don't worry about it if you're already a tapper, why we do or don't tap on this one. And on what is commonly called the karate chop point there. It's not a racist thing to say karate chop, it is a karate chop point. Some people got bizarrely politically correct about that. It's called a karate chop just because that is the point at which you would use. Okay, you can tap like this. But I want to now explain to you the way I use tapping and why I use it in a specific way. So those are the points. There's a lot in the traditional Gary Craig tapping, there's a lot about what's called a setup. So you would say, let's say I wanted to deal with my anger. Even though I've got this anger, I love and accept myself. Or I love and accept myself anyway. Okay. I don't do that. We don't use that. There is an energetic reason why that is not really useful, doesn't help to focus. The point was that it was trying to counterbalance. Okay, the reason we don't change things and the reason we hold on to things is because it's not safe to change them. And somebody who doesn't love and accept themselves is not going to make any difference by saying that statement. Okay, I think there are other ways you can say I'd like to love and accept myself. Okay. What we're really doing when we set up is we're trying to say, it's okay, I'm here now and I have this problem. And I'm open to allowing this problem to be here so that I can address it. That's what we need to do. What we need to do is we need to say, I accept there's a part of me that has this problem. So my setups would be that even though there's a part of me that is holding this anger, I appreciate it has a purpose even if I don't understand what that is right now. Or I appreciate that it has a reason to be there even if it's stopping me feel how I'd like to feel. Just an acknowledgement that this part is holding something. So even though I have this part that is holding this resistance, I appreciate that it has a purpose. Even if I don't know what that is. So that's all we need to do. We're not trying to push that part away. We're not trying to fix it. Okay, this is the fundamentals of the way I work now. We're not trying to get rid of it. We want to understand it. We want to reintegrate it. We want it to become, with all of its resources and all of its information, we want to update it, get that part what it needs, which is some missing information, some missing resources. So even though I have this part of me, so my example I was using in the previous 2 videos is about, even though I have these parts that are preventing me from doing my writing first thing in the morning. So I would start with saying, even though I have this part of me that wants to stay in bed, and it wants to keep me safe, it wants me to stay in the warm, and it feels tired, I appreciate that it has a purpose. So even though I want to get out of bed, but this part of me doesn't want to get out of bed, so we're addressing this incongruence. And I don't understand it at the moment, and I don't feel able to change it at the moment. I acknowledge and appreciate that this part is holding something for me. So can you see the differences? The setup is really about making it safe to address what needs to be addressed. Now, traditionally we tap on this karate point. I've found that actually tapping on the kidney point is also quite good, and partly because the kidney, from a survival intelligence and from a meta-medicine point of view, is about isolation, abandonment, and usually when we've had a freeze response, we have split off and become isolated and separate. So the kidney point is quite useful to tap on. The other thing we can do is do the ABC of heart conscious breathing, and we can breathe into the heart and out of the heart and use our physiology to tell us that we're safe now. So A, attention to the heart. B, breathe into the heart and breathe out of the heart. Breathe into the heart and breathe out of the heart. And C, connect to a feeling of presence. So I'm perched on the edge of my chair. I've got one foot on the floor, one foot on my footrest. I have my heart, my hand on my heart. And I'm now breathing into the heart and breathing out of the heart. Breathing into the heart and breathing out of the heart. So I'm already using my physiology. I'm already regulating the vagus nerve. I'm already allowing my autonomic nervous system to know this is where I am and I'm okay. I'm using my heart rate variability to regulate myself. So that, combined with tapping, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in and breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I'm breathing into my heart and breathing out of my heart. I have this part of me that wants to stay in bed. There's a part of me that doesn't want to sit at 6:30 and write for 2 hours. Now, I've already done my part solicitation. I've already done my notes on why that is. And I already know that that part of me has decided it's going to be hard work. I'm going to be tired. And lots of other stuff that's come up from underneath, which is I had something about people are not going to get it anyway. That was underneath and underneath and underneath. Okay, so it's going to be too hard work to explain myself because people don't get it anyway. People never got me anyway, or people said they got me and they didn't. That's what came up for me. So that came up from doing that form. But there's a part of me that's holding all of that, and that's okay. It has a purpose, even if it now feels that it's working against me. It has a purpose. Okay, so we're not going to go through the tapping now. That's the next step. After this video, we'll do another video and we will tap through that. Even though I have this part that is holding that which we came up with, we're just going to tap with allowing that part to be there. So my own process, okay, the heart alignment process, is about recognizing we have that part and then allowing that part to come forth so that we can help it to become reconnected. That's the bit we deal with, the disconnect. We deal with the reconnect, then we get the information. So for me, tapping is not about going into the event or into the memory or away from where we are. We're not going back anywhere or forward anywhere. From here, we are recognizing we, here where we are now, have a part that we would like to understand better, that we would like to help to become more connected. We would like to give appreciation, gratitude to, and to be able to help them update their information so that they can have a broader perspective and so that we can reintegrate them and bring in those resources and that information and the learning so that we can grow physically, mentally, emotionally, become wiser, stronger. Okay, so this is all about not getting rid of parts and not fixing stuff and not tapping that out. Oh, I've got to tap that out. Okay, which is what people think they're doing. This is about allowing us to tune in, to be present, and to allow that part to come forth so that we can do that process. Okay, so go through your form again, do some gentle tapping on that. Even though I have this part, okay, it has a purpose, even if I don't know what that is right now, and that's okay. That's all the setup you need. I have this part, and if you notice something come up in between that, like this part, and I'm really annoyed with this part, or I don't like this part, okay, well, guess what? That's a part of you that's annoyed with that part. So maybe you just allow that part that you thought you were initially working on just to wait at the side while you say, okay, the part of me that's annoyed that this part is stopping me doing what I want, that's just another part. We do the same process again. And if you think, I can't do this, it's not working for me, guess what? There's a part of you that thinks this is not working. So let's leave that part to one side and bring out the part of you that thinks this doesn't work. Let's give that part some appreciation, because that part also has a purpose. It's also protecting you. Okay? So there is no right and wrong way to do this. This is an inclusive way of healing parts. Okay? It's an inclusive way. We're creating self-community, self-awareness, and self-connection, as well as then connection to greater source and to everything. So see where you get. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments as you just even try that line. I have this part that is holding all of that, or holding this belief, or holding this thought, or holding this statement, or holding this memory and this strategy. So my staying in bed is a strategy. It worked for me really well when I couldn't face people, when I had chronic fatigue. Okay, don't really need it now, but it's clearly got a purpose. So even though I have this part that is trying to help me, that's okay right now. I don't understand. It's frustrating me, but that's okay. So it's about first step, acknowledgement, acceptance, and awareness. Okay? Next video coming soon. Not 2 weeks this time, but within the next few days.